Okay, let me ask you something. What if I told you that the single most powerful skill for your entire career, well, it's not something you're born with. It's something you can actually build. Today, we're going to completely dismantle this myth of the natural communicator. I'm going to show you that great communication is really just a technology, a tool that anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn to master. So let's dive in.
So, let's kick things off with the big question, the one that's probably been floating around in your head at some point. Are great communicators just born that way, or can they be made? I'm telling you, the answer to this one question could literally change how you approach every single conversation for the rest of your life.
All right, here's the game plan. We're going to start by busting the communication myth. Then we'll lay out a communicator's blueprint and get into the art of expression. We'll see it all work in a real-world example with communication in action. And finally, we'll talk about how this becomes your ultimate superpower.
Okay, first step, the communication myth. You know the one I'm talking about, right? It's this idea that some people are just born with it. They're gifted speakers, and the rest of us are just kind of left to muddle through. But what if that's completely wrong? What if it's not a gift at all, but a skill you can learn?
And here's the big idea I really want you to grab onto. Communication isn't a gift. It's a technology. Think about it like that. It's a set of tools, specific techniques, and processes you can repeat. Just like learning to code or play an instrument, it's something you can learn, practice, and totally master.
So think about those times you felt frustrated in a conversation. Maybe you weren't being heard, or your ideas came out all jumbled. Well, listen to this. Those aren't personal failings. They're just symptoms of not having the right tools in your toolbox. When you only focus on what you want to say and ignore what the other person needs to hear, that's just an undeveloped technique. It's fixable.
So, what's the fix? How do we build this skill? Well, we start with what I call a communicator's blueprint. This is a simple, proven sequence for structuring pretty much any message you want to deliver, and it is designed for maximum impact.
Now, this sequence is so powerful because it's a little counterintuitive. Most of us just jump in with our main point, right? But with this method, you don't do that. First, you start with something they can agree with, something you have in common. You're basically building a bridge to them. Then, you bring in the key info you need to share. And only at the very end, after you've built that foundation, do you say what you actually want.
But here's the catch. This blueprint only works if you do your homework first. Before you even open your mouth, you've got to be crystal clear on two things. First, what's your goal? Are you trying to persuade them, just inform them, solve a problem? And second, who is your audience? I mean, really think about it. Are you talking to a colleague, a new client, your boss? The context here is absolutely everything. Okay, so now you've got the structure, the blueprint. That's a huge step. But a blueprint is just the start, right? Now we're going to get into the fun part, the art of expression. These are the techniques that take you from just talking at someone to having a real dialogue, the things that make people want to talk to you. And you are not going to believe this, but one of the most powerful tools in your entire arsenal starts with two incredibly simple words. I know, it sounds way too basic to be true, but trust me, the psychology behind this is it's huge. All right, here's the technique. When someone shares an idea with you, your first instinct might be to poke holes in it, or jump in with your own opinion. I want you to resist that urge. Instead, just start with, "That's great." You're validating them right off the bat. Then, immediately follow up with an open-ended question like, "What's the most interesting part of that for you?" This little combo sends a powerful signal of respect and genuine curiosity. It just invites them to open up and share more.
And what this technique really gets at is a super important idea, the difference between content and process. The content is, what you're talking about, the facts, the figures, but the process is how the conversation feels. And here's the secret. People will forget the exact details you talked about. They will, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That feeling of being heard, of being respected, that's what sticks with them.
Okay, enough theory. Let's see how all this stuff works in the real world. We're going to look at communication in action with a really high-stakes case study. Imagine you're a Chief Information Security Officer, a CISO, and you desperately need to get a big budget approved by the top executives.
So here's the scenario. The CISO knows there's a huge security risk that needs to be fixed, like yesterday. But the executive team? They're laser focused on growth, on the bottom line. They don't want to hear a bunch of technical jargon. So this is the ultimate challenge, right? How do you translate a technical need-to-have into a business must-have?
So, how did the CISO pull it off? It all started with that homework we talked about, understanding the audience.
They realize the CEO cares most about brand reputation. The CFO, it's all about the financial hit. And the board is worried about legal compliance. So the CISO didn't just make one generic pitch. They crafted one core message, but framed it with 3 different angles, one for each of those key players.
Just look at this transformation. It's brilliant. The technical ask is, we need to upgrade our firewall. I mean, a CFO's eyes would just glaze over, right? But what if you reframe it as, this investment prevents about $120 million in potential financial risk? Whoa, now you're talking their language. That's a perfect translation from tech speak into the language of business. It's not a cost anymore, it's an investment that protects the bottom line.
And if you look closely, this pitch follows our blueprint perfectly. Step 1, start with what they can accept. Here's the current risk. Step 2, bring in what you should say. Here's the business impact. And finally, step 3, say what you want. Here's the solution and the benefit. It is an absolute masterclass in structured persuasion.
All right, let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about getting a budget approved in some meeting. This is way bigger. This is about completely transforming your entire career. Mastering communication really is your ultimate superpower.
I mean, the impact is just massive. When you can clearly articulate your ideas and your value, boom, more opportunities open up and your career grows faster. When you make other people truly feel heard, you build deeper, stronger relationships. And when you can do both of those things at the same time, that's when you gain real influence. The kind of influence that lets you make a real difference.
You know, the world is absolutely full of opportunities. It's full of potential for amazing relationships and success. The thing that's often missing isn't the opportunity itself, it's the bridge to it. And that bridge, that one skill that connects you to all of it, is communication.
And that really brings us to the heart of it all. The goal here isn't to win the conversation. It's not about being the loudest or the smartest person in the room. The real purpose, the whole point, is to build understanding. It's about creating that connection between your world and theirs.
Because at the end of the day, how high you go in your career, and honestly, the quality of your entire life, is largely determined by your ability to communicate. It is the single most powerful, learnable tool you have at your disposal. So, the only question left to ask is, what are you going to build with it?